Today you're going to see the full warm-up and workout of Olympic silver medalist Mirabai Chanu on her recent trip to St. Louis.
Get up and get down, get up and get.
So today's workout started like most for Mirabai with a nice cup of coffee. Now she starts most of her training sessions with a long dynamic warm-up that usually lasts between 20 and 25 minutes. So I'm just going to let the camera roll. You can see her entire warm-up.
Get the full warm-up on video today again.
So what I'll also do today with this long extended video is any time that there's a specific exercise that I think maybe needs a little bit more in-depth explanation, something that would benefit you guys to maybe understand the detail of or why we're including it within her warm-up, I'll do a little bit of an overview and just explain as she goes through it. But otherwise I'm just going to let the video run so you can see really everything behind the scenes.
What's on the plan for today, this morning? Power cleans? Okay. Snatch and clean and jerk up.
Now this specific exercise she's doing is one that we did prior to the Olympics in 2021. She's placing a small lacrosse ball just next to her shoulder blade to do some soft tissue work on her rhomboid. Now, in order to get into a good overhead position for the snatch and the jerk specifically, you need a good amount of upward rotation of the shoulder blade. One of the issues that she was dealing with prior to the Olympics was an inefficient upward rotation of the right shoulder blade. So doing some soft tissue work to the rhomboids just allows those shoulder blades to move upwards and into the most optimal position going overhead. So she usually will just take 5 to 10 passes with the soft tissue work with that ball just pushing right on the rhomboids. If she feels any stiffness in any particular area, she will then maybe do just a few more reps. But this is just a quick way to make sure that we're optimizing that upward rotation of the shoulder blades and getting those back muscles primed to be able to allow for optimal positioning overhead. So next what she's going to be doing is a banded joint mobilization in the pigeon pose. Now the reason we are using the band is to really open the hips up. It does a little bit of hip distraction, allowing you to bias the joint just a little bit more than a regular stretch in the pigeon pose will. So this is an excellent way just to prime hip mobility, open those hips up prior to any type of Olympic lifting. You'll see that she's not just holding it statically, but she's sort of moving. She pulls the hips back, then drives the hips forward. So we're doing a mobilization with movement, which is something that in the physical therapy world we'll use often as a way to prime mobility in a more efficient way than just holding a static stretch. This way we're constantly moving the joint, getting certain muscles activated, so she's allowing her hips to relax back and then squeezing her glute as she comes forward, so we're getting a little bit of contract, relax. Doing something like this versus just a static hold of that pigeon pose is going to not only open the hips up, but also prime all the muscles that surround the joint to really own that new range of motion. This next exercise is a Serratus wall slide. It's another exercise that we put into her program for when she needs it prior to the Tokyo Games to help with her shoulder issues that she had been experiencing. The goal with this is to prime the upward rotation and protraction of the shoulder blade when you go into the front rack position and then overhead for any type of jerk. So this is very helpful for what she needs for her shoulders. The band around the wrist is to help with a little bit of shoulder rotator cuff external rotation torque. And then the sliding up the wall, we're pushing into the wall while we think reach, round the upper back, and rotate the shoulder blades out to the side. So this is a really good exercise to prime that serratus anterior to help with the upward rotation of that shoulder blade to get in the most optimal positions when going overhead.
Great job.
This exercise is called the hip airplane. Now, this is an exercise that I personally learned from Dr. Stuart Miguel, and the way he explains it is that it helps enhance your ability to steer your strength about your hip. If you think about most of the exercises that we do within the gym, they're usually in one or two planes of motion. They're in the sagittal or the frontal plane of motion, but rarely are we doing things in the transverse or this rotational plane of motion. So sometimes athletes will develop weak links in their ability to control a joint within that motion, and then it can affect many of their other lifts. So doing a warm-up that primes within this transverse plane of motion can be really helpful to just increase your awareness and your control of a specific joint. Now, she has a band around her knee pulling in, and that makes it much more harder to control. But basically the idea is that you get down into a single leg RDL position and then moving only about the hips, drop the pelvis down. You may feel a slight stretch in the lateral glute when you drop into internal rotation, and then you go up into external rotation. But having that control up and down within that specific plane of motion is really, really helpful. Very difficult. So what she's doing right here, you can see it looks pretty easy for her, but most people struggle big time with this and fall over. So the banded pull is an advanced version of this. You really don't have to go that difficult at first. Just body weight and just only going a couple inches up and down at first can be really, really difficult, and then progress up from there. But you'll see she's just going to do a few reps on each side and then go to the next exercise. From here, Mira is going into the modified curl up part of the McGill Big 3. Hands are underneath the low back to keep the spine in a neutral position. She then is going to brace her core and pick her head up just slightly and just focus on being able to stiffen that core and keep it engaged while she breathes for a few seconds. Something like this, usually about 5 to 10 seconds, and she'll do a couple reps, usually of this on each leg extended sometimes. So this is going to be the last of the dynamic warm-up that Mirabai is doing before she then picks up the bar. And while there were a couple cuts in the video to keep it from just one extended stream, you know, we're at about the 25-minute mark roughly of her warm-up, which is going to be a little bit longer for what most athletes will need, but obviously for someone who's an elite weightlifter that this is her entire life, her job to do, you know, taking something like this to really prime your body to get ready to pick up the bar is very important for injury risk reduction, for making sure that she's primed her body for the best possible performance for the day. But you can tell how much detail goes into her warm-up. She's not lackadaisically just grabbing the bar, even though that she is one of the best athletes in the world in her sport, Olympic silver medalist. She does not just walk into the weight room and grab the barbell. She takes her time. And all those dynamic movements happened one after the other. So there's no wasted time. She's constantly moving around, constantly getting her body warm, not wasting any time. So while your specific warm-up may not need to last 25 minutes, I think one of the benefits you can take away from Mirabai's warm-up is to constantly be moving and go from one exercise to the next to really get the blood flowing and your body primed and ready to go.
Left glute turning on well. Good.
I was a little suspicious, and it's like I should have known better, and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, this is
Feel the burn. Good. So just a couple seconds. Okay, and then test the other side. What do you think? Pretty similar? Good. Okay. Yep. And then that's good. So that you're good to go. So just a quick test like that lets you know, hey, I'm ready to start putting weight on.
Say that energy flows where attention goes, so I pay no mind. Why waste my time with all these negative cats scratching? So caught up in their egos, these people have lost.